Welcome back. This is Don Potter with Beyond Basic Phonics, English Morphology 101. And we're doing lesson 37. And this is our fourth lesson in the Romance roots. So here we go. We have two forms here. We have flect and flex, and they mean to bend. So first of all, let's look at the first one here. We got flect. So we have inflect, and here in has the idea of in, not, but inflect. And that can be like your voice, your inflection when you speak. I can say, how are you? How are you? And there's a little difference in my voice. That's called inflection. And so there we go. We go from inflect to the verb to the noun form, which is inflection. When you inflect your voice, it's an inflection. Next, we have deflect, and I bet you remember D means what? Means away from. So if a soldier's an arrow's coming at a soldier and he puts up his shield and it hits the shield instead of the soldier, then it's going to deflect it and it's going to bounce off. And when you deflect something, that gives you a deflection, a deflection. That's the noun. Next we have reflect. Now flect means to bend and re is again. So reflect is to bend again. So when you take a mirror and you see the light from your face goes to the mirror and then it comes back to your eyes and you get to see your face. So that's reflect. And then we have OR on the end of the word. If you remember, that's agent. So a reflector, when we say it fast, reflector. I know OR usually says or, but in these words, since the accent does not fall on the OR, reflector, it falls right here on the Latin root, then it means the agent. And so a reflector is something that reflects, so it would be like a mirror. And when it's reflected, the noun form is reflection. And so when you look at a mirror, you see a reflection of yourself. So you can see how all those words are related to the central concept of to bend. And so with our program here, you're not only going to be able to read these specific words, but when you see other words in print, when you see that flect, your brain's going to say, oh, that means to bend. And you will be able to figure out the meaning without having to look it up in a dictionary most of the time. Okay, flex. Here we have an X at the end instead of the CT. So you actually have the word flex, like flex your muscle. A person who can move in all kind of directions contort their body in all kind of ways is said to be flexible. And if you remember, this here ending right here has the idea of ability. So flexibility means the ability to flex or the ability to bend. And then you have reflex. And notice up here, it's kind of simple. We had reflect, and here we have reflex. And then we have circumflex. I'll do you a little Greek lesson here. It's my other language. This word right here is doulos. It means slave. And I'll just write it real quick here. And this is the Greek letters D-O-U-L-O-S. I think you know all those except the S. Now it disappeared. Let me do it. I got to do this really fast. D-O-U-L-O-S. And a circumflex is this accent on top of the upsilon, the Greek U. So doulos. So anyway, so that's what a circumflex is. And if you study Greek or some other languages, you'll actually see that. And you can see how that the circumflex bends over the letter. And circum is kind of the idea of around. So you have a letter underneath of it, like the Greek upsilon. All right, now let's go down to B. We have mit and miss. And that means to send when it's used in a word. So here we have mit, so we have admit, and you remember add there has the idea of to. So admit means you can send somebody in. You admit them to the theater to watch the movie or so on because they got their ticket. And then that's called an admittance. Next we have commit, and I bet you saw the chameleon or the disguised prefix there, that N on con becomes an M when it comes in front of a root that begins with an M. So now we have this double letter. It still means commit. So that commit has the idea of to send with. And like when you commit to something, you decide you're going to make an effort to do something, you commit. And the past tense, we put the ed on the end, Anglo-Saxon there. Oh, and we also have a chameleon. The chameleon prefix stays there. So now we have committed. And the ing, present participle there, we have the idea of committing. The thief committed a crime when he broke into the bank, and he was committing the crime when he was caught. Next we have omit, and that's when you omit something. Then we have permit, like you have a permit to park in a handicap zone if you have a handicap, or if you work at an office and you work there, they have a special place just for the employees, and you have a permit to go there. And you can have all kind of permits. You can have permit, and I could have put the word permission there. You have the word like permit to build a house. The city may give you a permit to build a house, and so you have to follow the regulations. Okay, next we have submit, and here we have sub means under, and so submit is like when you submit a paper to your teacher for them to grade it. Emit is a good example is a skunk. A skunk emits a bad odor, doesn't it? Then we have transmit, so we have across and to send, and so to transmit is to send a signal on a walkie-talkie. How y'all doing over there? We're doing fine. So you're talking to somebody that you can't see, and so that's transmit. And something that transmits is a transmitter. So we got on the end, a transmitter. Then the next one we have remit and remittance. When you buy something, they give you change back. They give you your remittance. So they send it again, send it back to you. Now we have miss. And again, we have two forms here for the same meaning, to send. So we have a mission. Maybe you remember, or some of us older people remember the mission to the moon. Yes, I remember when people first landed on the moon. Then we have a missionary, and a missionary can go out and teach people a message that he has, a missionary. Then we have a missile. Now that's interesting, because a missile, you get the idea of sending something up. A missive is basically a message that you send to people, and sometimes it'll be something humorous. They sent a missive, it's been a letter. Then we have admission. Oh, now that's a good one. Add is to, and mit means to send. So when you're admitted, that is an admission. And you can see the term up here, admit and admission. The spelling changes there a little bit between those two, but they're actually related. Then you have dismiss, like when the teacher says, it's time for recess, dismiss, and y'all get to go out. Then you have remiss. That's kind of an interesting word. If I fail to do something and then I tell you, I'm sorry, I was remiss. I didn't do it like I should have. So that's remiss. Then you have remission. And we sometimes talk about remission has the idea of to cancel a debt, a charge, or a penalty. And sometimes we call it forgiveness. So we did something wrong and we seek remission. We ask somebody, would you forgive me for that? Then the next one's pretty cool. Permission. Got a noun form there. I could have put, we do have, here's permit up here. And notice, even though it's spelt a little bit different, they're related there. So when you permit somebody to do something, that's called permission. May I have permission to call my mother? Permissive is an interesting word. It's when you let people do things, and you can spoil a little child sometimes if you are permissive. If you allow no restraints whatsoever and just let somebody do anything they want. So all of us have to stay within the law and do things that benefit each other. So being permissive is usually not a good idea. Next we have submission. And here we have submit. Notice up here we had submit. And now we have submission. So you can see how many of these mit words are actually related to the miss words. And so we have submission. Sub means under and mit means to send. So submission, and when you submit to somebody else. Then submissive is the idea of you do what you're told to do. You're submissive. Intermission. Now that's an interesting one. Inter means like in between, and mission means to send. And then this is again shun, noun form. So let me see up here. We have admit, and here we have intermission. And intermission is when you go to a show or something, and you sit there for an hour and say, okay, we're going to have an intermission. And so they change actors or musicians or whatever. And you can get something to drink and maybe some popcorn. Next we have commission. And I bet you saw the chameleon prefix there. We got two. This N on con becomes the M. And I love the word euphonic change or assimilation. The linguists call that. And so con means with, and mission means to send. So that means you're sent on a mission. You have been commissioned to do something. And then if you remember the ER here, commission, that's a noun. Now we have commissioner. And a commissioner is someone who carries out a commission. And finally, we have a transmission, and here you can see how it is related, although the spelling changes from transmit to transmission. So when we transmit a message, that is a transmission. All right, this has been, I've really enjoyed this. I'm sure, certain, no doubt, no question, this is going to be a huge boost to your reading, especially if it's the first time that you have studied these. And then as you start reading, be looking for these. You're going to find these roots everywhere. So kind of train your eyes and your brain to look inside the word for these roots, prefixes, and then the outside of the word, roots, prefixes, and suffixes. The suffixes, the outside, the prefixes and suffixes, and then the inside, which would be the root. And I guess when you're looking at this, you need to turn that around because I'm looking at you through in a kind of a mirror image there. All right, we'll let you go. See you later and get ready. We're going to practice these in sentences with lesson 37.